I'd just say keep getting out there and shoot every day and shoot what you love for as long as possible, and don't get too caught up in what other people think of you, because that doesn't matter.
Yep.
Just shoot what you want to shoot. And I think if you just keep focusing on what you love shooting, it'll eventually turn into something pretty magic.
Hey, well, welcome to this episode of the Salt Sessions. I'm super excited to have an amazing photographer on today that I've really wanted to talk to for a while. I think one of the most important things about this one is this shows what I really love about Instagram. I met this photographer over Instagram a couple of years ago, and I think for all of the bad rap that maybe social media sometimes gets, if you use it properly, I try to look at it just for inspiration and finding talented artists, and that's definitely been the case. And so then, one of the most important things I wanted to do with this podcast is then meet those people and find out a bit more about the stories behind how they got started and what their motivations are for photography. So today I'm very happy to welcome Katey Shearer. Welcome.
Thank you.
Cool. So one thing that I just didn't mention in the intro there is super exciting at the moment is that you've just been named a finalist in the Follow the Light photography competition. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about that? Some people may not know what it is, and just also how that kind of came about, and a bit of the background behind it, and then what's happening with it.
Yeah, so Follow the Light is a photo competition based in California, celebrating the life of Larry Flame, I think his name is. And yeah, it's the most amazing surf photographers in the past, like Chris Burkhardt, Sean Parkin, I think his name is, Todd Glass, Morgan Masson. There's so many who've won and have become some of the people who I look up to. And it's pretty big deal, and so I'm still so overwhelmed and still can't believe that it's happened, to be honest. And
so how did it all come about? What's been the process and finding out about it and everything? So it's just submitting some images and stuff, or
so I earlier on, I think it was around May this year, you submit 15 photos and you write a bit about each photo. What you do with the grant if you'd win, and that's pretty much it. And I just sort of I had honestly no I was I'll just submit a few photos, see what happens. And and then I got an email saying I was in the top 10, and I was pretty stoked with that, to be honest.
Definitely, it's amazing.
The top 5, I was like, oh my gosh, is this real?
So so what's happened now? You're heading off for the award, so that's on soon?
So the awards is on next Saturday at in Laguna Beach at the they've got a film festival on there.
Nice.
So they do it there, I think, every year. And it's a awards night, and top 5 takes home the prize.
Unreal. That's amazing. So exciting. Cool. Can't wait to find out about it.
So exciting.
Sweet. So I guess just sort of to go back to the beginning a little bit, how did you get into photography? Was it sort of always your plan? I've kind of noticed on some of your, I kind of went all the way back through your Instagram and had a look at all your stuff, and noticed there's a quote on there at one point where you're mentioning if you told me a year ago that I'd be taking photos or selling photos or having a website, I'd tell you that you're crazy. So obviously there was a bit of a time when you got into it, but is it something you sort of always wanted to do, or how did it sort of all begin?
Well, it's not something I've always wanted to do, actually. I sort of, how I came across photography was I actually had a car accident in Tasmania, and I flew home while my van was getting fixed in Tassie. I flew home and spent a month at home, and I was like, I want to learn something new just to sort of pass the time by. And I bought this little, I think it was $30 film camera, and after a week, I was just obsessed with it, going through rolls and rolls and rolls of film. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I ended up getting all this money back from insurance from my van. It was a repairable rider. So I got the van and all this money back from insurance and spent it all on camera gear.
Awesome.
And that's pretty much how it started. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And the first thing I sort of delved down was like the first photographer I found that I was like, oh my God, I want to do that is
Yep.
Chris Burkhardt. I feel
Yep.
like nearly
Yep.
every
Yeah,
surf
I think that's
photographer
my
probably
story
does the
too, but
same thing. Oh,
yeah.
that's
Why not?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
amazing.
you're like, oh my God, he goes on adventures and takes photos of surf in like wild places. Like, I want to
Yeah,
do that. So
yeah,
I just was, yeah, I was obsessed with him for a bit and
yeah,
just went out every day taking photos. And yeah,
yeah.
that's how it began, I guess.
Unreal. So the surfing
Yeah.
aspect of it, is that like just because you've sort of, that was where you lived, you've been into that sort of like culture? Was that the natural thing that you would take photos of?
Well, no, I actually started off taking photos of dogs.
Yeah, cool.
I was living yeah, I was working, I was nowhere, like I grew up nowhere near the ocean and
Oh, okay.
was
Yep.
working in aged care,
Yep.
and the women in work, like the women I worked with all had dogs, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I want to be a dog photographer. So I was taking
Unreal.
photos of all these dogs,
Yep.
and then I moved down to Phillip Island,
Hmm.
which is on the southeast coast of
Yep.
Victoria. And
Mm.
yeah, I was like, oh wow, I love the ocean. Like I've always loved the ocean,
Yep.
and started taking photos of the ocean, and then I started taking photos of surfers, and then moved down to Torquay. And
Yep.
I guess because it's such a surf hub,
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, wow, it's cool taking
Yep.
photos of surfers. And then the surf side of it sort of spiraled from there.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, I can definitely, I reckon,
Yeah.
like it's interesting that you said that about Chris Burkhardt, because I can kind of see that in your early imagery, like some of the first stuff you were posting, like there's definitely like that influence in there, which is like it's an amazing influence to have. But also then I sort of wanted to chat about, so I feel like as you've probably progressed, and you can talk more to this, I've just been studying your work, there's just a real interesting like artistic feel to it, you know what I mean? Like there's some surf photography that's just the wave, but I feel like there's this element now that you've brought into it, which is really, I guess it's like there's a storytelling element to it. You obviously really understand things like composition, warm, cool, color palettes, that kind of thing. So is there any background that you think maybe that had come from? Like, is there any other artistic background, or how's that sort of developed like over time?
I think, I guess understanding my camera more and understanding like the surroundings, sort of connecting with my surroundings more. And I guess over time, you sort of work, I guess the more I sort of, I guess, channel what I'm feeling
Yep.
into that moment. And
Yep.
I've just been able to learn my own way of, because yeah, I guess like going back to Chris Burkhardt, you kind of like, as soon as you start, you take on everything that this person you're so inspired by
Yeah.
is
Yep.
doing.
Yep.
And you just sort of like, oh, like any photo you take, I was just thinking like layers and landscape and
Yep.
everything, but it
Yep.
wasn't me. I was like, okay,
Yep.
this is
Cool.
not coming from me at all.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess um, I remember not actually taking photos for a while. I'm really stepping back from it and thinking
Mm.
like, okay, what, what do I want to photograph?
Yep.
And I started, yeah, taking photos of, yeah, more macro, like close up,
Yep.
and getting sort of details. Like I love
Yeah.
getting details of, when, as a surfer, like getting their hair, like
Yeah.
in the,
Yep.
in the
Definitely.
sky, or their hands, or like really little moments like that, that is more of the feeling of it than
Yep. For sure.
I
For
guess
sure.
the whole moment. Yeah, so I guess that's how over time that's sort of just grown, and I've um, been more inclined to photograph what I feel than
Yep. Yeah,
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, you can definitely tell. I mean, that like even as looking through, there's definitely like a progression into that. But like even I think when I was the storytelling part, like even if you kind of post something that a carousel of images from a day, there's that variety in there. There like might be like a wide, really like minimal shot, like a surfer in the distance, but then the next shot is that real up close,
Yeah.
detailed kind of shot, and then there's the warm and cool like colors and stuff. So yeah, it's really cool to see. Yeah, so that might kind of, you sort of answered a little bit then, but like so if you're out shooting that type of stuff, especially the detailed things, right? So when you're shooting in the water and like moments are happening like that, and I'm assuming you're shooting multiple frames, what then is it then? So you go home from that session and then you're looking through all the photos. Like what are you then looking for in that image? What are those elements when you're looking through all of them to cull them to go like, that's the one I want to publish or post or whatever?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think when I look through the photos, it's, I guess, what I resonate with that moment. I, look at it, I'm like, oh, that's exactly how I felt, what I saw. And yeah, I guess combining everything, like, the colors, the landscape, the surfer, how I feel. And I'm like, that is in all, that one image, that's it. And, I guess there's so many, you do a session and you get so many photos where you're like, oh my God, what is that? But I guess that's how I choose the photos.
And does that come into your editing like at all? Like, I don't really know like how much you sort of do edit, but is that like a similar thing? Like, you just kind of trying to bring back the feeling that you felt in that moment and sort of express that a bit?
Yeah, for sure. And especially, if it's in Victoria, it's just so dark and moody and, stormy and like just cold. And I guess, that has also been a big part of why I'm drawn to more, sort of cool colors and, and I guess more moody kind of stuff. And
Going on from that, because you mentioned the weather, like, is that something that factors into when you go out and shoot? Like, are you kind of, is there certain conditions that you're like, that's what I'm going to go and shoot in? Or are you kind of like, I just want to go out, if you've got the time, and just see if I can create something with what's presented? How does that sort of work?
Yeah, I guess I just go out in anything in Victoria, because if I'm like, I really want perfect light, whatever, I'd be waiting for weeks. It's just, cool. I really like that I've been forced into some horrible conditions where I'm out there, and in a minute it's like gale force winds. You're out in the ocean and it's hectic, and you're just like, oh my God, how did I get out here? But it's to me, that's like, I just love it. I love it now. It's like one of my favorite parts of living down there is just how, going out in anything, you never know what you're going to get. 100%, really.
Yeah. And I think ultimately it probably makes you like a better photographer as well. Like, that's one of the things I've always kind of found. I just decided when I picked up a camera, like, I'm just going to go every day. And then even with work stuff I've done, I'm going to shoot everything and anything, because I find like the more positions you can get yourself in where you need to manage the conditions, then the more comfortable you get with that. So then, like, when those moments happen where, otherwise you might be kind of fumbling around trying to check your camera settings or work out what to do, you've kind of like built up that natural understanding of it, so you can actually focus on, something happening. Like, there's been moments when I've been out and it's been like, feel like a really grey morning, and almost been like halfway through just having a coffee, and then suddenly the light comes out and the sky just blows up, you know what I mean? And it's like, just being there like all those different times allows you to then just instantly go and go, cool, I can go and get this.
And I feel like the times where I've most questioned whether I should go out and shoot or not is when I get my favorite shots. It's like, I don't know if I should go out, like, look at it, it's horrible out there, it's raining, but then all of a sudden the light comes through and it shows all the rain, and it's on the ocean and there's waves like crashing, is mental, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That's 100% it. I find that as well, like, especially because I shoot all the time early morning, which I'm guessing like you do a lot as well, is like, it's almost like the mornings when you wake up and you get this feeling like, oh, maybe I won't go today. That's my instant trigger now, to just be like, no, you have to go now, because this is when something's going to happen. And
for sure. Especially in the mornings, like during winter down south, and it's just like, you're like, oh, it's 6 a.m, it's like 6 degrees. It's like, oh my God, and cozy in bed. You're like, oh, I don't know whether I've got to get up. But when whenever you do, it's just, no matter what, you always get a shot.
Definitely. Yeah, that's unreal. Cool. Just want to go into, so what, like, with your photography, like, are you doing it full time? Are you do some commercial work? How does that sort of work at the moment?
I do. At the moment I do it full time. I do a lot of weddings and like Airbnb photography. And it's pretty much between those two that I work with, and the occasional sort of brand shoot. So that's really cool. I feel really grateful that I can do it for
100%. And so how's that process been? Like, were you doing something before that? I guess like the kind of the area I want to go is like, a lot of people want to follow a career, which is something like, it is like a bit unique. I'm kind of doing the same thing as well. And I get that question a lot of the time, is like, like following your passion as opposed to, I guess, a more traditional, safe or secure job. So did you leave one, or is this just something that you've gone into? And how was that process for you, as terms of going like, I'm going to go and give this a go?
Yeah, well, I've always been in and out of really random jobs and just hated them. And
Yep.
I want to do something that's cool. And I've
Yep.
never really suited having a normal job.
Yep.
In a sense, just like I would never last long at a job, and
Yep. Yep.
I'd just sort of save up, go traveling, and come back to a different job. And like it was very. I didn't like that. I guess that's why I sort of thought when I picked up, bought a digital camera, I was like, oh, maybe I could do this for work.
Yep.
This would be cool. And it's taken a lot of time and a lot of, ups and downs. And, you go through times where you're like, oh, far out, this is not working, or you don't believe in yourself and all that. But you just got to keep pushing it, I guess. It's everyone has something to give, I think, in any form of art. And I guess it's easy to compare yourself with social media and all that. But yeah, it's like everyone's got something to give. And I just I did a lot of free stuff before.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, me too.
Like getting the experience. I was like the first year of doing it, I was just out, just like asking anyone. I did a whole, like the first wedding I did was like 10 hours and I got paid, I think, $400. I was so stoked on that. I was like, this is so cool. And you got to start somewhere, and you just got to push it and stay motivated and, have goals and manifest, and it all just sort of, as long as you do that, I think it'll always work out.
That's amazing. Like, it's really interesting that, because there's so much, pseudo advice out there about charge your worth and blah, blah, blah. But like, there's just so much time you could just get stuck doing nothing. Like, I was exactly the same. I'm just going to work for free until I've got something I can show people. And then I'll work for cheap until I've got like a bunch of clients, and then I'll get referrals and then go through there. And I think that's like absolutely it. And that was actually like another funny thing. That was something that came from Chris Burkhardt, actually, like in the early days. He was one photographer that just did everything and anything, shot just anything like he could. And that was like part of when I got a bit of inspiration early, I was like, the more I can go and shoot stuff, kids' birthday parties, school formals, and like the occasional wedding and this and that, it's like you get in all these situations where you like have got to adapt. And I think that's just been like a real thing where then you can grow it into something. Whereas if you're kind of purely thinking, I just want to be a surf photographer and that's it, then it's a very like difficult path. And
Oh, sure. You've got to work hard, like it doesn't come easy. You got to there's, especially with water and surf photography as well, like I was out, I think, especially last year, I was just out every day, no matter what, shooting, learning my housing, learning my camera, capturing a surfer, like learning that surfer and how they surf, and getting to know them. And I was just basically chasing surfers, just running around, like asking them, like, "Can I shoot you?" Like, just so
awesome.
desperate. And now, amazing. They're all like really good friends of mine, and it's it's really fun. Like, it's you got to work hard at it. I think it doesn't
100%. That's unreal. I just want to, like, it's kind of along the same topic. Just want to read a quote that you put on your Instagram, obviously by one of your favorite writers. So I'll just read it. And by the way, everything in life is writable about if you have the outgoing guts to do it and the imagination to improvise. The worst enemy to creativity is self-doubt. So it's like a Sylvia Plath comment. Quote.
Yes, Sylvia.
So self-doubt, like in general, I know you've kind of touched on a little bit, but basically, like, how's that something that then you have approached throughout it all? Like, if you've had that, how's that been something that you've kind of like worked through?
I think having people around you who believe in you is like such a big part of it. I've got really supportive friends and family that have just pushed me. As soon as I'm like, nah, don't want to do it anymore, like, nah, put it away, they're like, really push me, like, cool. No, like, get out there, Kate, like, it doesn't matter. I think it's just taking the whole commercial side, what people think of you, and that constant negativity in your head and coming back to why you do it it was always something that just brought me back. And I was like, you know what, doesn't matter if I don't get to where Chris Burkhardt is or this photographer is. Only thing that matters is getting out there and doing it because it's what you love.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's been a way that I've been able to get around the whole self-doubt. And it still comes. I feel like everyone, every photographer, every artist, everyone has it in life. You doubt yourself. But yeah, I think having really good people around you and just coming back to the reason why you do it is
awesome.
Really important.
And look at you now, you're about to head off to the award ceremony for a competition that he won. So
I know, it's hectic.
That's amazing. Yeah. So on that artistic stuff, so do you I get the impression that you write as well?
I love writing, yes. I'm really inspired by just different poets, and I love poetry. I love reading all kinds of poetry, and just I guess anyone who writes about nature and really just things that come from their soul and their heart, and that's I love especially Sylvia Plath is probably my favorite. I love her. I mean, a lot of her stuff's really dark, but man, it comes right from her soul, and she's an incredible writer.
Yep, that's amazing. Yeah, awesome. Cool. Sweet. So just a couple of fun ones. So is there any photographers, I mean, you've mentioned Chris Burkhardt, you've mentioned a couple of people, but is there any photographers, I suppose, that have inspired you along the way that you've really looked at for inspiration? And then second to that, is there any photographers that maybe people might not know about that you know about, whether they're kind of local around your area or just some other people? Because I guess, I kind of want to learn about a bunch of different photographers as well, while we're doing this.
Yeah. Well, I guess the photographers I've been inspired by has changed a bit over time, but I guess I've been, I actually don't know what his name is. I know what his Instagram name is, the Essay Rips.
Oh yeah. Hayden, I think. Yeah.
I love his stuff. His shots, I just look at them and I'm like, how in the world did you conjure that? Just photos like that. I'm blown away by, where I could sit and stare at it for hours, and I just am completely blown away by it. And I love Nick Green. He's one actually who won Follow the Light a couple of years ago, and I love his photography. For photographers who are really unique and who have
that book just there in the background.
Yeah, I saw that. I've got that one too. I love that book. And I love Katie Ray. She's from the UK.
I did an interview with her a little while ago. Yeah, she's amazing.
I love her just use of light, and her photos are so feminine and simple, and they just get you though. Sometimes I look at it, I'm like, oh, I want to cry. It's just so nice. The photographer, I'd say a local one who I've put out there is my dear friend Nick Cameron. He's an amazing film photographer. I love his photos so much. They just make you feel really good.
Awesome.
Those photos, he can really just capture, I think, a place and people, and he's really, really good at capturing just the in-between moments. He's got photos of me and my partner and just some friends at times, and I'm like, I don't even remember when he took that. He's sort of in the background, he takes it and he shows you the photo, and you're like, oh my God, I don't remember you taking that. Like, where were you?
It's a really special talent, isn't it, to be able to see those moments?
Oh, for sure. So I'd say him. He's great. Look him up.
Cool. So you're flying overseas next week for these awards. If you could continue that plane trip around the world and go to 3 other locations to shoot that you have been to or you haven't been to, where would they be?
Oh, that's a great question. I would love to go to New Zealand. I'm just obsessed with the nature there. Just photos from there, amazing. Morocco, I'd love to go to Morocco. And I'm going to say Japan,
Yeah, cool.
I reckon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. What is it about
Yeah.
Japan?
I'm just fascinated with their philosophy and food and
Yep.
their nature as well, how they their philosophy of nature as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to just go there and live there for like a year
Yeah, nice. Yep.
in the mountains or something and learn from them.
Yeah, awesome. Unreal. Cool.
Yeah.
So do you know Rambo Estrada from New
Yeah,
Zealand?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, like, I figured that you'd probably be pretty into him as well, because I think Chris
I
Burkhardt, Rambo Estrada, and like Mark McGuinness, who I'm chatting to soon, probably like my three like favorite photographers in
Oh,
that realm. So
wow.
yeah.
That's so cool. You get to talk to them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Rambo's cool. I love his stuff. You
Yeah.
kind of just think like, man, New Zealand must be the dream place to
Yep.
live. But just the photos he puts up, just the
Yeah.
most perfect waves. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well,
his
one of my
stuff is,
best mates just, well, he's been living in New Zealand, but in a few different spots, but they've just moved now up to a spot that's just south of Coromandel, where Rambo's from. So I need to go and do a trip over there and go
oh,
on, yeah, and have a shoot.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, cool,
Oh,
sweet. So, I guess just to wrap it up. So, what's your plans photography wise, or your goals, like in the next? I guess, I mean, obviously you've got a fun immediate plan of like going over to these
yeah.
awards, and that could potentially change your path like dramatically in, depending on who you meet there and that sort of thing. But like, I suppose just, aside from that, like, yeah, what's the goals, and have you got anything coming up?
I've really been getting into filming, and I'd love to produce a film next year, I reckon.
Awesome.
Something, 20-minute surf film, especially
Yeah.
down on the coast in Victoria. There's not really many surf films that come out of there.
Okay. Cool.
And yeah, I mean, I'd love to expand, I guess, more, and potentially work for a surf brand, and they can
Yep.
send me overseas and
Yep.
shoot some like the best surfers in the world, and
Yep.
that's the long term
Yeah.
goal, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Unreal. I think you should do a book at some point as well.
I would. That's
Yeah.
another thing. I've been working on just, getting together some writings and
Mm.
photos for the last year. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that I'll just sort of tinker away at for a while, and just when it's finished, put it out there.
For sure, yeah, yeah. I reckon that would
Yeah.
really suit your style of both photos and I guess that, yeah, that creativity with the writing. But yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
can sit next to Dark Hollow over there
yeah,
on your
exactly,
bookshelf.
exactly. Amazing. And so I guess like just lastly, if anyone's listening to this or watching this and they're just getting into photography, so have you got any kind of just general advice of someone who's just starting out, wanting to get into it, how they can kind of go about it? Not even necessarily to make a career out of it, but just, how they can kind of improve and keep moving in it.
Yeah, I'd just say keep getting out there, to be honest, and shoot every day,
Mm.
and shoot what you love for as long as possible, and don't get too caught up in what other people think of you, because that doesn't matter.
Yep.
Just shoot what you want to shoot, because I
Yep.
think that's the most important thing. And I think if you just keep focusing on what you love shooting, it'll eventually turn into something pretty magic.
Yeah, awesome. Amazing. Cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been really fun. So nice
Yeah,
to meet
thank
you.
you. It was
Yeah,
so
and
lovely to meet you.
yeah, and I can't wait to hear all about the trip next week. So yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
Hope it's
I'll
amazing.
keep you
And
posted.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
definitely. Yeah.
excited too. It's so exciting. Thank you so much. It's been lovely to chat.